talk about the Big Ten kind of as a whole with you guys now. And Mike, I'll go to you first, and Ann, you can kind of respond to what he says. But where do you stand on like who the favorite? Like I've been really impressed with Michigan. I know they took that loss to Wake Forest, but what they did to Xavier was an absolute ass kicking. And then the other night against Wisconsin, going on the road and winning that game the way that they won that game. The Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden pick and rolls are just like, it's pure. Like I love watching them play. Oregon, I know you love Oregon, Mike. I love this Oregon team. Maryland the other day beat Ohio State. I think they were up by 45 in the second half. They were tripling them up at one point in the second half.
It was 63-23 at one point, and I think it got worse than that. But seeing that was wild.
That's crazy to be down 63-23 as a Big Ten team, right? I don't know, man. I feel like this is a year where you can have 6 teams finish like 14-6 and all tie for the Big Ten regular season champ. Like I feel like that's what this kind of season is going to end up being in this league.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because the national perception, because this is what's going to happen. The Big Ten's going to get like 11 teams into the tournament, and everybody's going to be going crazy because they may not have like the top end talent, or they might have like the top end power that like a Duke or an Auburn or some of these teams, and like Duke in the ACC, Auburn obviously in the SEC. They may not have that top end team, but I swear to you, like 4th through 14 in this conference might be separated by 2.5 games. I think there's a lot of like good teams. There's a lot of good teams in this conference. So to me right now, who's playing the best? It probably is Oregon. Like I think it is. Because I will say, like they were set up for a letdown against USC coming back from the Players era. That was set up for them to go into a sleepy arena.
Hey, they kind of had a letdown too, and then they found a way to be able to win at the end.
Yeah,
and
the first half was brutal.
That was Dana Altman. Got the cover, man.
Yeah, and just to give Oregon their flowers real quick, I think coming into the season, and Rob, we obviously talked about them, but coming into the season, I didn't think that. I was really high on them, but the way I thought about them having success is different than the way they're having success right now. Like Shellstad was great last game against USC, but by and large, throughout the course of the season so far, he hasn't taken that step that I think we envisioned him taking. It's been all the other pieces. It's been Bamba like simplifying his game, Brandon Angel being his efficient self, Bartholomew off the bench, JJ and Tracy's been awesome, getting downhill, getting out on the break, and they play their asses off. That's why I love watching Oregon. Biddle's great as well. Biddle, I said it the other day, like I forgot what I said. I said Biddle's like the Jack Nungy of Luke Cornett's. I think something like that. Like he's good.
That is the most
like he's
Big Ten
really good
thing
big.
I've ever heard in my life, man.
He's a good big. And so there's a lot to like about the Oregon team. So I'll shut up and pass it to Ant here.
It's a great line. I love that. Go ahead, Ant.
I do like Oregon, man. I like that team a lot, but it's there are 16 teams in this conference that you need to play. You need to be ready to play, and if you don't, you will lose. I think both Minnesota and Washington are the two where you could be average and still win, even at their place. But it's funny how both of those teams have like an all Big Ten type of player on there who you have to look out for, which is weird how they're both kind of similar in that regard. But there's no elite teams. But what I do like about this conference right now is that they're shaping up to get like 4 or 5 teams in that like top 4 seed range. And I think that's what you need to make a run, right? You saw this a couple years ago where the Big Ten had like 7 or 8 teams, but 6 of those teams were in the 7-10 or in the 8-9 game.
Yeah.
And people they're like, the whole Big Ten is out. Well, they had to go against a 1 seed or 2 seed after 2 days. So them being able to set up themselves to be one of the top seeds, that's when you're going to get those runs. That's where you're going to have more teams in that second weekend to be able to get to a Final Four, to be able to get that national championship that's been elusive since 2000.
2000.
Knocked on the door plenty of times. But I'm looking around college basketball right now. I'm like, yeah, I think Auburn's still the best team. I think Duke's very good. I think Kansas is going to get better. But saying all that, I think that on a neutral, I think the Big Ten can't compete with any of those teams. Honestly, there's nobody who's truly scary to me.
This is the best way to kind of sum up the Big Ten to me, right? There's nobody, and I know Ken Palm's rankings aren't perfect right now, but there's no Big Ten teams in the top 13 of Ken Palm's rankings. But they have number 14, number 15, number 16, number 17, number 18, and number 19. And then they have 6 more between 27 and 45. It's just like it's so jumbled at the top that there's going to be a lot of teams that are just going to win because they are on their home court.